Right. So you should be assessing your career goals, your interests and values. So you can start by looking into companies and organizations that you're thinking that you want to work at. You can start with researching opportunities that you might want to apply for or roles that you might want to work in. So you can learn about the kinds of responsibilities you have in that role. Um, and this is going to help you prepare for when you actually search for jobs, because you'll be able to target which job specifically you're looking for, and it'll make the search process more manageable. So you might want to think about, out of the classes that you've taken at Art Center, which ones have been your favorite, what skills that you've developed that you're strong in, and how they're applicable to an employer. How would you grow, or how do you hope to grow as a professional? And how can an employer help you achieve those goals? How can they help you facilitate that growth? What are your long-term goals? How would that position support those goals? So those are a few questions you might want to consider when you're thinking about what kind of roles you want to pursue. And so some questions or things you might want to think about are, what does the day-to-day look like? So what do you want your day-to-day to look like? What kind of roles or responsibilities do you want? What type of work interests you? Think about what you've done in school again, and what keywords or skills you're looking for in a job description. And then also think about, oh, excuse me, also think about your location. Where do you want to be? Where do you want to be located? Are you prepared to move if necessary? How far are you willing to move? Is the location where you want it to be, like an urban or city, or is it rural? How long would the commute be? And then the next thing you might want to think about is the money and compensation. So what is the average salary for the types of positions that you're interested in? Um, what is the cost of living in the areas that you are interested in living in, and could that industry support that cost of living? Would you need to make some sacrifices? Are there any perks outside of the salary that interest you? And then also think about the kind of employment and employer that you want to work with. So do you want a part-time job? Do you want a full-time contract role? What's normal for your industry? Think about that. Do you want to work at a large company, a small company? Think about all of those things, and then once you do, reflect on these, organize them in a way from most important to you to least important to you, so that you know how to start your search. So when you're researching, think about, you can use our website, our CPD website, LinkedIn. You can just go directly onto company and organization websites that you're interested in, and you can also use Own It, and we'll go into this. So one of the resources you can use is our CPD website, and on it, I will click into it and share my screen so you can take a look at the resources we have on our page. So if you go into our CPD webpage, so for example, let me go into animation and I can show you the list that we have. So if you look into our document here and scroll down to some companies you might want to work at, you can click into, for example, Disney, and you might want to learn about, of course, you might already know, but you might want to learn more about what they do. And then same thing with, let me click into another one. I can click into mouse. So sometimes you might learn about the company. They have it like on the menu tab up above, and sometimes it's down below at the very bottom of the web page, like down at the bottom. So I would recommend looking directly. You can check our website, take a look at the different industries that we have here. We have different companies posted on here, and also lists that you can go through that might be of interest to you. And you can click directly into those companies. You can click directly into those companies and, 1 second, let me be sure. Okay. So you can click directly into those and learn about what they do there. See what their mission statement is, what are their values, do they align with your career goals? You can do your research that way. You can also use LinkedIn. And for those of you who have not used LinkedIn before, if you click into If you go into the alumni page, this is what it looks like here, but let me share my screen so that I can show you. So this is our alumni page for Arts Center College of Design on LinkedIn, and you can search here or filter by where alum work, where they live. You can search what they do, what they're skilled at. And this is a good resource if you don't know where to start in your job search process. Think about think about your career goal, your ultimate career goal, and then you can look at where other students with who graduated with the same major as you, where they started. You can take a look at what roles they started in and how they got to where they are now. If those align with your career goals, that might be good insight for you to research. And so you can also take a look at, for example, if I click into Nike, it'll show alum that works at Nike. And then say we can click into, so if you look at their experience, you get an idea of where they started and where they're at now. So if you want to be a graphic designer, this is their experience. And they didn't just become a graphic designer right after graduating school. They probably had an internship, and then they more roles before they went to that they got to that point. Then let me share my screen again. So LinkedIn is really helpful. You can search for alumni, you can search for companies, you can connect with people for informational interviews if you want to learn more about a role or a specific company or organization. You can reach out to them and connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a message, see if they're available to speak to you a little bit about what they do, and maybe talk a little bit about the work culture there. That's a good resource for you to use. And then of course you can use it for your job search as well, and we'll get into that. And then you can also go directly into company websites or organizations. So you can use the list that we have on our CPD website, but you can also, if you have a company in mind already, you can look them up and then scroll down to the bottom of the page, or sometimes in the top menu bar, it'll have like an About Me tab. So you can learn more about their products, their values, their mission statement, all of that, to see if that's a place that you might want to work in. Another good resource is ONET. For those of you who don't know, you can click, if you go into ONET, and I will show you an example of what you can search for. You can search for, let's say, graphic designer, and then they'll show you key tasks, skills you might need as a graphic designer, examples of work responsibilities. You can learn about any training or credentials you might need in a different state or in this state. Learn about the skills that are important for the role, the knowledge that's important for the role. And then you can also learn about wages and employment trends and what's standard for whichever state you're looking to work in. And then it's also a good place to look for job openings as well. So it's really helpful. If you don't know also where to start, I believe they'll have a, right here, if you don't know if you need a higher than a bachelor's degree, you can look up the job that you're looking for and see what kind of education you might need, what the pay is like for different levels of education, and it varies, of course, but it's a really helpful tool. Let me share again. Thank you, Roxanne. Let's see, any questions so far? If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. No? Okay. So when you're doing your research, you should be organizing. This is going to really help with keeping track of the jobs that you're looking to apply for. And also when it comes time to follow up, it's a good way to, while staying organized, is going to help you with doing that and make sure that you follow up at the appropriate times. We also have a resource on our CPD website called the Professional Toolkit Checklist. And we have different items here describing what they are. And you can check them off, and then you can have dates for when you want to have them completed. That's one way to stay organized. And then you can also create a spreadsheet. This is just an example that we have on our CPD website. So you can have the job name, the location, the website, why you're interested in it, what the position is, what is the deadline to apply, what application materials do you need, which ones do you have, who's the contact name, the email address. You can also mark it or arrange it by how you're by priority if you want to apply for it. If it's something that you really want to apply for, then you might want to, mark it, label it as a 1 so that you get to those first. And then you can also have a status section where you can have a outreach email column. You can have a date that you applied, and then also when you follow up, or if you need to follow up, that's a good place to put that. And then just any additional notes. This is a good way for you to keep track of which places you've already applied to, which places you need to apply to, which places you might need to follow up with if you've already applied and hadn't heard back yet, or if you've already interviewed and you want to follow up on the interview. This is a good place to keep track of all that information. And so to prepare for the job search process, you should have something already like a sample resume and a cover letter to use, like a template that you want to use, and your portfolio website, of course. So those are the three most important things to have: your resume, cover letter, and portfolio website. And it doesn't have to be perfected just yet because you're going to be tailoring these to each job description that you're applying for, but you should have something that you feel really confident about and have the basics like education, work experience, and the skill section. And then you can always arrange that in a way that's relevant for the employer to read once you find jobs that you want to apply for, then you can tailor those materials. Any questions so far? Okay. So once you have your basics, you can start searching for jobs. You can use job boards. We have this webpage on our CPD resource page. And so we have different options that you can look for jobs. So of course you can look at Art Center Connect. And these are a couple different platforms that you can use for searching for jobs: Indeed, LinkedIn, Going Global if you want to look for an international job, remote jobs, freelance opportunities. And then we have other websites that you can check out divided by industry. And then, like I mentioned, you can also check, you can check LinkedIn if you want. Has anyone here searched for jobs on LinkedIn before? Or do you want to kind of go over how to do that if you haven't already? I can show you very briefly how to search for jobs on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn, you can type in your job. I'll just use the same one I've been using, graphic designer. You can check either here, you can type in the role that you're looking for, or you can also type in the company that you're looking for, and then you'll see jobs that pop up. But you can also, let's say you want to work at Nike. You can click the company, and then you can click the jobs tab to see what positions they have available. So you can look this way, or you can just type directly into the search bar a specific role that you're looking to apply for. And then, of course, you can filter it at the very top by salary, experience level, if it's remote, if it's hybrid, if it's in person. We have all these filters here. If you want a full-time job, part-time, temporary, contract, you can filter all of those there. And then this is kind of what the application process would look like. So you should be tailoring your application materials once you have something you feel good about, your resume, your cover letter, and your portfolio website. You should be tailoring that and aligning yourself with the job description, making sure that you have the keywords that are mentioned in the job description, the key skills that they mention. That way you can strengthen your application. And then When you're ready to apply, um, of course, submit the application materials. If you're submitting through like a third-party website or through applicant tracking software, then I would recommend you submit a plain text resume. And if you want to talk more about that, we can meet one-on-one, or you can check out our CPD website for resources. We talk about ATS on there as well on our CPD website. If you're looking into how to strengthen your resume and make sure that your key skills are highlighted by that software. And then once you apply, there could be a waiting period of about a week to a month, depending on when the closing date, how early you apply. So if you haven't heard back within like a week to a month after the deadline for the application, then that would be a good time for you to follow up with the organization and ask them about the status of your application. And it's also a good time to just, in the meantime, before you are offered the interview, start preparing by doing mock interviews, practice how you might respond to some questions. And then the more you practice, the more confident you are about those things. So that's going to come more naturally in the interview. And when you are offered the interview, be sure that you don't wait too long to respond to an inquiry about about an interview. And just some tips to consider: apply early, especially if you're applying through Art Center Connect, because a lot of times employers will close or remove postings if they've already received a lot of applications. So even though there's a deadline, we highly recommend that you apply early. And then, of course, follow up. So if you've already applied, the deadline has passed, it's been between a week and a month, then I would recommend following up on your application. You can reach out to the hiring manager. You can reach out to, if there's a contact on the job posting, you can reach out to them. You might need to do some research about that. You can look into their website to see if they have an HR department and see if that might be the appropriate person to contact about the status of your application. But it's always good to follow up. And then if you've already had an interview with the company or organization, then also within about a week to a week and a half after the interview, if they haven't gotten back to you already, it would be good for you to follow up and ask them about the status of the application, see if they want to move forward in the interview process, if there's going to be another interview. And then lastly, after each of your interviews, it's important to send a thank you note. It could be something as simple as just an email saying thank you for their time. And also it goes a long way. It shows that you're grateful, and that it shows the gratitude goes a long way, and just showing that you appreciate the organization's time with coordinating that interview, and also um, meeting with you to interview for that position. And then you can also send not just the employer, but also whoever helped organize the interview a thank you note, just a simple thank you email. And then, like we reviewed, here are some resources. You can use LinkedIn for job searching, networking. You can also take a look at LinkedIn for researching companies, researching alumni to see where students or alum in your field, where they're working now, where they started. If you don't know where to start, that's a good place to start if you want to look at alumni and see if they started at a certain internship, for example, or how they got to where they are now. And then you can also use ONET to search for different occupations. You can learn about the kinds of roles you might be doing in that role. You can learn about also the salary for that role, any education you might need for it. And then, of course, you can use our CPD website for resources on resumes, cover letters, portfolio websites. We have templates that would be helpful for your resume and your cover letter. We have a guide to creating a portfolio website, so that could be really helpful for you as well. And then lastly, I just wanted to ask you all what you found helpful, and if you have any questions. Do you have any specific questions or about the job search process, whether you've started yet or if you're in the process of looking for jobs? You can go ahead and drop them in the chat if you'd like, or you can unmute yourself. No questions? When do you think is a good time to start looking? Um, I think it's good to because it's a long process. It's good to start looking to already have that in mind well before um you actually need a job or want to get a job, just to start organizing all of your research, learning about the companies that learning about the companies and the roles that you're looking for, and also just so that you know how to organize or how to prep in terms of your career path. Because if there's a role that you want to pursue, you might need to have certain experience, so you might want to start with an internship. So it's never too early to start thinking about it. Um, but if you want to have more, if you want to talk more about that and kind of your specific career goals, we can definitely set a an advising appointment and talk about that during our advising appointment. Does that answer your question, Catherine? Okay. Isaac, what role should social media play in addition to portfolio website application? So you can definitely have like a LinkedIn page, and you can be sure to have it updated once you already have the basics like your name, your about me, any skills, your education, and your experience. It's really just a matter of updating it as you go, as you graduate, you update your education. When you get a new role, you update that on LinkedIn. And it's just easier once you already have all of those basics. It's just it doesn't take as long to update it. And you can also link that on your resume. I've noticed a lot of students do that as well. But in terms of social media, are you referring to other platforms like Instagram or LinkedIn specifically? Yeah. Um, Good question. I That's not something you have to do. I think that's another option for you. I can look into that for you as well and get back to you if you want to drop your email in the chat. Do you? Yes, website to check for networking opportunity. I think LinkedIn is going to be your greatest resource for that. And you can also check directly on specific companies that you want to work at or organizations that you're interested in, and check what kind of contact, or if you see any contact information. Normally they have that on their company websites as well, especially if it's a smaller company, and you might be able to reach out to them for networking opportunities. And if you're interested in learning how to do that, if you want to kind of go talk through your outreach strategy, we can talk about that in a one-on-one advising appointment too. Any other questions? Yeah, thank you, Roxanne. You can learn about networking opportunities by following professional organizations, either on LinkedIn, on Instagram, other social media platforms. Any other questions? All right. If you have any other questions, feel free to email our, excuse me. You can feel free to contact our office. And I'll also drop my email in the chat if you want to send me an email. Oh, thank you, Roxanne. My slides are being finicky. But yes, you can send us an email at careers@artcenter.edu. And you can also send me an email. Thank you, Roxanne. I was just about to type that in. If there's no other questions, thank you all for joining, for taking 30 minutes out of your day for being here.